Sure. Do you want to start or?
I will start. You'll have to help me fill in the gaps. I really, I'm not even sure how long I've been on the committee, maybe about a year and a half. We started out kind of gung-ho. We were going to do a really comprehensive survey. We were going to work with the platform that Tim Roach uses. Bob, I don't know if you remember the name, but the sophisticated survey tool that they've made available. There is a price tag. I think it's about $1,500 for a survey that would go out on Facebook. There's lots of different ways to use it. That sort of fell by the wayside for whatever reason. And then we took up summarizing the Warren articles. That seems like it's a really valuable service, but of course that's sort of like a one-time thing we do each year for about, 5 weeks. And that's really where we've left things.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what my notes show. I mean, when we first started, I think like the charge is pretty large for the committee, is like looking at all of the communication platforms and methods we use. And there's other stuff about public meetings in there. Actually, I'm gonna just pull up our charter here. But I mean, I think we quickly realized that a lot of residents and people on the committee as well, like, have ideas about what we could do better, or what they want to see, what they don't want to see from the town in terms of communication. But we really have no metrics on, what do people want to see from us. So yeah, we're looking at the committee charge right now. So, evaluate the ways in which the town communicates, to maximize citizen engagement on multiple platforms, baselines to organize community forums and to discuss important issues important to Exeter. And then there's also a thing with work with the XTV to establish procedures that can be used by us when interfacing with the public. So there's supposed to be 7 members at large, and then an Exeter TV staff and a select board member. That's non-voting, but yeah. So I mean, looking back at our committee notes from the last couple meetings, after we were doing these kind of press releases for the Warren articles, which I think a lot of people liked, we got them out in the Exeter newsletter. So it was a good thing that the committee did, and you guys did a lot of work to get those out there. And we also would post them on social media. And this latest go around, we experimented with using MailChimp, like a online marketing newsletter platform. So we use that to send out all the Warren article summaries, like in PDF form, and links directly to anyone who's subscribed to us. And we have a pretty small following, but while we were doing that, we were saying sign up for the emails, and people did, just to get those Warren article things. So, we've been trying little things here and there and kind of reporting that back. But, the biggest thing was, and Russ just forwarded this to me again this morning in case, people are watching, don't know, or if people on the committee who are new. I know I forwarded this to you, Nina, the 2019 external communication analysis that was done by Nick Campion. When he was at UNH. So this was how many pages is this report? It's like 66 pages if you want to read through it all. But basically that looked at, he just interviewed and looked at town staff communications and what we use and all the different platforms, and kind of compiled a bunch of goals that we could have, and kind of a little benchmark about how we do. But the questions in the study was more phrased around like, how do we think we're doing, and not how does the public think we're doing. So it didn't look at the public's perception or what they want to see. So I think we've kind of known all along that the next step is we need to do something with the public, whether that's we could hire somebody to do survey, or we could maybe just do our own at this point in some sort of smaller format, like a Google form or something, to try and get some some information back. And that's the last thing we had talked about at our March 25th meeting, actually. Because, we talked a little bit about the Salem Street Utility Project outreach, I guess, that they did, which they did like Survey Monkey stuff and got a lot of stuff back. But we really, we left off, where do we stand with the quote from the RPC for this study software, I guess, service that they have, which I'm pretty sure we would kind of come up with the questions, and then they help rephrase the questions to get better answers.
Exactly.
And I think they would help with the organizing of, the data.
Presented.
So
yeah. I will add too, I think we all really just felt stuck with the website stuff. That seems like the big elephant in the room, that the town website is just really clunky, and it would be a massive undertaking to try and rehaul it. But yeah, I mean, that is the feedback that I think a lot of people consistently give and get, that it's just hard to find what you want when you go on the town website.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Nina, you're new to the committee, and I know you're on the sustainability committee, which they also were looking at.
You made it.
Connor
just popped on.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I am so sorry. This is usually have very stable Wi-Fi at my house, and this morning I just could not get it together. I'm so sorry. So I joined as soon as I could.
No worries. We just kind of did a brief overview of like what we've been through, I guess, since our start, what we were trying to do, and we kind of left off with the next step is some sort of survey for the public. And then we were kind of just, we were welcoming Nina. She is new to the committee, and also Daryl, the select board rep. I think this is your first meeting as well with us. So I don't know if you guys wanted to mention what you were interested in or any ideas.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I guess definitely the website issue was something that came up with the sustainability committee. I tried to create our own site specifically for an event that we were trying to host online once it became evident that we couldn't do it in person. And then that sort of led into the rabbit hole of the entire communications of the town, and led me to apply for this committee. But I think a lot of things that we learned from that, being that there is really no central, or there doesn't appear to be any central space for various committees in town to submit information to get it out to the public. We've talked on and on about the website being clunky or hard to gather information from, things like that. We looked into, and we created our own Facebook page that wasn't necessarily stating that we were affiliated with the town. It was more environmental news. But so we've been utilizing that a little bit. So things like that. But I think my reason for joining the communications committee would be to create sort of a platform or means for all these different committees in town. And I know that I guess I need to understand a little bit better what the communications committee is responsible for as far as other town avenues and so forth. But so that's just my main thing is to create that line of communications and so we can reach out to the townspeople the best way that we can, and whether that's a survey or. But my understanding from the sustainability committee is that because we had proposed, I think it was less than $1,500, but to have our own site. So monetary things were sort of an issue. So I don't know how it is with the communications committee getting a survey done for $1,500. But I think based on my communications background too, and utilization of all these tools, I think there's a way that we can do a survey on the cheap. I don't think that, it might not have the official analyzation of the questions that are being sent out. But it would also be something that we could do on our own. And maybe we wouldn't have as wide of a response because of the context that you have. But I'd be interested in working on that further.
And I jumped at the chance to get on this committee because very self-interested. I would love to see meetings used for meetings and dissemination of information done some other way. So I'm finding that just from the select board meeting, it's we're using it to send information to the public, and it's just highly inefficient and just not fair to different learning styles. So and I'd love to have the meeting be as short as possible. So I'm sure other committees have the same issue. So I just feel like I have a communications background in tech. This feels like we could think, and all this, in the post-Zoom or post-COVID, whatever you want to call this era, it's like we really, even aside from a survey, there's just things that need to get done so that we can truck information back and forth faster. So,
and maybe we don't need a survey. Maybe we know pretty well enough how people want to get. I mean, I don't want to make that assumption, but if that feels like a big holdup and it might not be very fruitful, I'm totally fine going down another path. My biggest thing is that I don't want to be redundant, and I want things to work really well and efficiently. I like efficiency, and it feels like in a lot of these things, especially with the website, there's a bit of sort of redundancy. So I'm all for new ideas that make this smooth and efficient and really just refines how we get out information. So we're on the same page.
Really good for a survey is a really good PR idea for sure. But with this kind of brain power on the committee already, you can probably make some really good decisions that wouldn't be precluded by public opinion. So I think it's definitely a good measure. And then maybe there's things we're not thinking about, but you can probably trust the judgment here to at least, we at least have lots of old school people using the tools, not what they're best for. And then, so we're better suited to, we use these tools to do this better. And then beyond that, there'd be great information from the public to give like peripheral things we're not seeing. Yeah, I agree.
Connor, do you have anything to add? I know you only had one meeting with us when we were still in person, and I think you've got some ideas. You've certainly got a lot of good energy. So.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And sorry again for my tech issues. I'm usually pretty, I don't want to call myself savvy, but I can usually get through it. I don't know what happened this morning, but thank you very much. It's very nice to meet you, Nina, and very nice to meet you, Selectman Brown, and congratulations on your recent election. There was a couple of things. Just I guess quickly on my background. I'm actually a fairly new Exeter resident. I'm actually coming up on my 1-year anniversary of buying my house here in Exeter, and I love the town. It's just a fantastic place to live, and I know I don't have to convince anyone on this call of that. But I was looking for ways to get involved, and the communications committee had openings, and I don't necessarily have a background in communications. I actually work in a legal compliance role for an insurance company in Boston. So I don't necessarily do any direct communications work, but I just thought if I could contribute in any way, that I would. So that all worked out, and yeah, as Lindsay said, I only had one actual meeting with the committee before COVID broke out. My recollection of that meeting was that there actually was a meeting of the select board, I think the evening prior, and there was a student at the University of New Hampshire who was getting it must have been a master's degree final project or dissertation, and his role, his project was to do kind of a comprehensive analysis of all of the municipal communications approaches, methods, tactics in Exeter. And he came up with a really great, I think very thorough PowerPoint presentation That didn't, it did give recommendations. It kind of just talked about the current state of things now, and it gave some recommendations based on what other municipalities that are similarly sized to Exeter are doing. So I know Bob had originally sent it to me. I think I have it, and I'm more than happy to distribute that around because I think it's a great starting point. And again, my recollection is that, and there probably are more components to all of this, but that there are at least three methods that the town of Exeter uses to communicate with its residents. The first is probably the most obvious. That's the website. I think, press releases are found there. Information on elections are found there. I mean, we all know what the website's used for. It probably, I'm sure, could be improved. And then there's an app. There's an Exeter app, and I think Bob during that meeting gave us a quick run through of what the app looks like, kind of its basic functionality. I think that we all did agree that could be improved, and it doesn't appear as though many residents are using it, although some might be. And we thought that could be, given that it's already existing, we already pay for it, it's already there, that could be a good potential avenue to send out, push notifications to people. I'd have to look at the app again because I don't really remember exactly. And
Bob can speak to it. I'm not sure that it has those capabilities. Maybe it does.
Okay, so that
I think it's more of a reporting tool. Yeah.
Okay. But it could be. I don't know if there didn't seem to be a lot of usership around town. I don't know if it's just. I don't know. I don't know why people aren't. If it's just we need to maybe invest a little more time into it, and people would find it more user friendly. And then the third method. And this isn't an exclusive list. I'm sure there's more things going on here, was the Facebook. There's the Exeter Town kind of umbrella Facebook page. And then each individual town, not each and every, but some individual town departments have set up their own Facebook pages, which I think Nina might have been speaking to this, that maybe the sustainability group was looking to do this. And I think it's probably useful in some ways and not useful in others, because I think you have just a patchwork of a variety of different Facebook pages. And I'm not, wouldn't be clear to an Exeter resident going onto Facebook where they need to go to find the announcements that's specific to them, depending on what they're looking for. Maybe they're looking for the hours of the town pool. Maybe they're looking for, road closures, or if there's going to be construction going on the bridge and they need to avoid Water Street. So we were talking about, maybe putting together some kind of master plan where we could, in some sense, consolidate all of the social media, if it's possible, into some sort of main page where maybe there is, people can come to the Exeter Town Facebook, and then if they're looking for department-specific announcements, they could go in and look more specifically into it. So I think those were kind of the three primary methods that the town uses for its public communications. If there's money in the budget and there is a practicality to it, I know that I think it might have been you, Lindsay, who was saying that the Rockingham County entity had put out some survey on communications, and I think it was
Planning Commission.
Oh,
yeah,
the Planning
they have a
Commission.
tool.
Okay. And it was successful, I think, by most accounts.
They used it for the parking survey, which got a really high response rate.
That's right, the parking survey. But if residents are interested in it, then you will get a response.
Right.
So yeah, I would say, for my part on this committee, I think if it's possible to do, I would advocate for a survey. I think residents would appreciate that, and we could glean a lot that maybe we don't even realize from, people's perspectives on the best way that Exeter can communicate with them. Because not everybody might be on social media. Not everybody has the smartphone that can download the app easily. So I think that was, we've only had our one meeting. So my agenda was really just like a recap of what happened in the last meeting, introduce our new members. And then I did just want to ask sort of an unrelated question. I just wanted to ask about our membership because we had been sending out some emails. I know that her last name escapes me. Her first name was Deb or Debbie. I know that she asked to leave the committee because I think she has other work commitments. And then I remember a woman named Marcia. I also can't. Oh, Martha. Mm-hmm. Okay. I also can't remember her last name. I don't know if she's on the call this morning.
She's not. I don't think she does Zoom.
Okay.
I think she may rejoin once we're in person, but not certain.
Okay. All right. Well, then even with the addition of Nina, I'm not sure what it takes to have a quorum. I'm not sure if I know there was some discussions about just on the issue of membership, some discussions about reaching out to the student who presented that project is an Exeter resident, and I think he still might be. And I don't know if it's appropriate for the committee to be like soliciting his potential membership, or if it's better to just wait to have him come to us. But it might be, I don't think it could hurt I'd be happy to do it. Send him a quick email and ask him, we thought you had done a great job on your project. We think you'd bring a great perspective.
He did just join the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Here in town. So I don't know if he wants to do another one, but if he does, then that'd be great.
Some of us do double up.
Because I just, a lot of this stuff is really fresh in his mind. He had really great point of contacts for every department. He sat down with interviews with people. I think he could be very helpful if we wanted to really accelerate this. And maybe he has enough insight where, he kind of already did the survey for us, and maybe he has enough substance for us to work with. But so that could be also a great thing, just reaching out to him and seeing if he'd be willing to serve on the committee. I think that would be another good first step.
Did he talk to the public, or did he just talk to departments? Because
I don't believe so. So it was just an internal survey, really. I think he talked to most of the department heads or the people in departments who are in charge of communication for their department or their group. But yeah, I don't think there was really anything. And that's why I think even if we were to just do it ourselves, like I can make a Google form, we can come up with the questions, and we've done that for a lot of things. With the TV station, and we've been doing it with economic development, and I think other people have done it as well. So just to get, if we could, we got like 100 people or 50 people to offer their opinions, it'd be really interesting because, that study really looked at what we were doing, and the key finding, or one of them that he mentioned at the meeting, and I don't know if you remember this, Connor, because I think you were there, was when all like department heads and people were asked, like, how do you think you're doing? They all rated themselves like really highly, like we're doing a great job in our department. And then it was like, how is the town doing as a whole? And it was like, it wasn't as good as the department was doing. So like, we all think we're doing a great job, but and that's great. But that opinion to me doesn't just matter as much as the public's opinion. Because if we think we're doing a great job, but they, aren't getting the information, or, we're just working hard for nothing. So that's why I think some sort of public input would be really important. And I know Nina had mentioned it and you mentioned it as well, but like that would inform some sort of master plan for communications, like what we want to do. Because then we can make a task list and just start knocking stuff off once we're, more informed about how people want us to communicate. I think we jumped ahead. We jumped into it with a lot of things, like the mobile app. We kind of, things are going in that direction across the country and the world. So we jumped in, and we had a pretty good plan for like rolling it out. But maybe we could have done something differently, or maybe we needed something else on the app. And
do you see the app as being useful? I have it on my phone, and I've never used it.
I see it as the same as most of our other platforms. They're all very useful tools if someone's like updating them with good, useful information. So they're all good platforms, and they all can be used for different things. I mean, the report and issue feature, which is the main part of the app, that's really useful for town departments and for people. Because you can, see a pothole in the road, take a picture, send it to DPW. They would say, thanks for sending that in. We'll go look at it. And, you can feel good that you did something. I don't know if that's in theory. In practice, it might not be as smooth as that due to, the public not knowing about it as much, but also maybe the departments aren't utilizing it like they should, or don't have the manpower to interact with the public through yet another method of communication. So, and there's other parts of the app that we don't use. Like, we could have a huge business directory. So if that may attract a lot of people to the app, because they can see, like, if I want to go shopping in town, or I want to eat out, like, they can just see every restaurant and every business that's submitted their business to there, and they could all be listed on there. And, that might draw them to it, and then they might see it, because right now we have, let's pull it up, because I haven't opened it in a while.
Where is the app advertised or told to town people? Because I didn't realize there was even an app available.
Yeah, I mean, there was a huge push when it first came out. We didn't do any like physical mailings or something like that.
Or signage around something.
Yeah, I mean,
do you find it on the website?
There was stuff on the town website, and it was mentioned meetings, like Daryl said, but maybe that's not the place for getting out information. If you have, channel 22 or 98 in town, or 13, there was a video of me talking about it that plays like every 5 minutes, probably for like a couple minutes. So. We posted that out on social media and stuff, and I think we had, 500 or so people, let's say, downloaded at one point. Do they have it on their phone now? Have they opened it since? I'm not sure, but
yeah, it sounds like it could be a good resource.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few people, they used it all the time. They were just going around town and taking pictures of illegal dumping, like on their walks, and,
right.
They were calling me, like, because we weren't responding to it fast enough. And then other people, don't use it. So, I think
especially for pushing local businesses, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, and that would be great. And I think there used to be some section of our website too that had like local business listing. But you get into there's a lot of policy questions with all that, because I can't put in the information for the public. We'd have to find some way for businesses to do that, but also, and maybe that's not too hard to set up some sort of policy. With our website, that's a little tough, because it's, but the mobile app had a way, I think, that people can submit and manage their own businesses page. So I'm not going in and updating it when someone has a sale or something.
Right.
But, and then you can kind of filter it. But, do we have someone who can check if, because would we allow all over the world to post on our business thing, or just Exeter businesses? And then who's going to manage that? Who's going to do all that? So, I'll say that a lot when I bring up things, but it's like we have these tools, but who's going to do it?
I think that's such an important piece.
Yeah.
And hurdle.
Because maybe some departments have that person, but a lot of them don't. And I would say the town as a whole does not have those people.
I think, and I think came up in our last meeting as well, is that some departments do have a designated public, let's call them a public relations employee who probably has a day job, but then on the side is responsible for updating the Facebook page. I think one of the things we wanted to include in the master plan was, whether municipal employees want to adhere to it or not, we could put together some kind of a training on best practices for social media use for municipal communications, best practices on press releases, how to word them. And again, people may not find this helpful, and they're free to ignore it. But I guess the least that we could do is the Communications Advisory Committee has put together a best practices manual. Doesn't have to be lengthy, doesn't have to be all that substantive, but just, I know that Molly Cowan, who is still on the select board, has a lot of experience in political communications and public relations. I think she actually offered to put together, I don't know if she still does, I don't want to speak for her. I think she mentioned something like that, where she could maybe put together a best practices manual, at least for the press release part of it. So, that's something that we could do in order to aid those people who feel like they're the designated public relations person for their department, and there isn't a lot of guidance out there. So that just a suggestion. That popped into my mind.
Bob, do you think the department heads would find that useful? You have a lot more interaction with them than the rest of us.
I think they would find that interesting and helpful. And then I think it goes back to as well that the kind of the master plan. So someone mentioned consolidation of stuff too, like. There may be perceived, loss of control of their information if if there's a central location or how that's going to work. But, in the short term, that could be one of those things that we've been, I don't think that wouldn't hurt anything if there was social media best practices. And I know that we had tried, at least with the town Facebook page, sorry about that, that maybe, one example is like for our best practices, maybe it's not the best, is to always post back, like link back to the website rather than just duplicating the information, so that, there's not two sets of information that are potentially different. So, that could be stuff like little tips like that. If they are indeed the correct ones to do, maybe that's it. Or, adding a picture to your post, stuff like that. So that it's, not just text. There's some people, there's like Exeter, there's just so many things with the Facebook pages and everything as well, that like, should you have one, should you not? And I saw the other day that like, I find new ones and I should know about all of them. And I didn't even know that like Exeter Dispatch has a Facebook profile, not even a page. So you can like add Exeter Dispatch as a friend on Facebook. So I don't know why that's the case or what, but best practices, that'd be something great, like a chapter in a larger master plan. For sure.
Yeah, I think there was one example of a department. It may have been like Parks and Recs, I forget, but that department alone has like 5 different Facebook pages or something. I forget. Bob, I think you had mentioned that.
Yeah, I know. They have one, Parks and Rec. They have one for the pool, one for the senior center, one for, different programs. And there is some, reasons you may want to do that, because people only care about the pool or something. So they want one place to go to, but without getting all those other information. But, is that really the best way? I don't know. I tend to think not.
An interesting idea would be more organic. So if you had a structure of, we're assuming that Facebook is the most effective way to reach people at Parks and Rec, but say for kids it's something else, Snapchat or whatever. It might be smarter. And same with Dispatch. Is Facebook the best place for Dispatch to have a social media presence? who knows, like what the right answer for the town should be sort of time boxed. So the town has a content conduit for things, and then each department or each subgroup may be empowered to sort of sponsor or have as you can imagine, Parks and Rec should have an organic member base that has its social media presence. Social media, distinguishing that from town content, because there's that inherent issue of this is a private corporation with its own motives for pushing up content and throttling down content, and we're using that as a platform for actual information we need to disseminate. It's like there's a difference between a place for crowd sharing things, and we've sort of been by default using that as, I've read a lot of like the legal stuff about, okay, Facebook is a default public space, even though it's a private space. It's like, well, how about we're the town, so let's actually have a space. So when you mentioned just to sort of cut it short, I would sort of like to start a thought train of what if you had a totally different structure where you really impress upon departments, have a content conduit that's coming into some repository, some database or whatever, so that there is oil for this machine or electricity. But so you've got stuff underneath, and then within each subgroup, hey, if you require, so for example, the senior subset, conversational UI or voice bots might be a lot more amenable than apps and things that are screen and digital, but it's hard to, you end up adding to the pile of, we have Facebook, we have this, we have that. It's like, well, instead of each subgroup having its town interface, the town interface directly links to some truth base, and then within that, there's some, most active members who are in charge of that aspect, but to sort of decouple the town from frictionless upload. So the issue with social media to me is like, if you have a town official accessing social media, you can't really say in within a day how many hours will they need to spend, because questions can repeat themselves. There's no cost to adding things for someone to engage with there. So anyway, off my soapbox.
Good thoughts.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that kind of, I think what you're hinting at as well is like community spread of information. Like how can we get the community to help spread our stuff? We've done, it's always coming back to Facebook. We do, a lot of departments will share, they've joined community groups, and Exeter, New Hampshire Community Forum is really, the talk of the town or whatever, at least for people who are on Facebook. So most of them try and share stuff from there. But other communities, like I just moved to Rye, and they have like two magazines, and the Rye Civic League, I guess, puts out a really huge newsletter, and they like, it's unfortunate that Exeter doesn't have that. I know, and we have the Exeter newsletter, but it's not really our town newsletter. It's, even though in the name it is, but like Brentwood, for example, has the Brentwood newsletter, and I mean they contract, a private or they donate money to a private nonprofit that publishes a newsletter, and kind of in exchange they let them post all of their agendas that are coming up when meetings are happening, and but maybe we could do that ourselves in a digital platform that people can subscribe to, or even print it out. Who knows if that was something the public would read. But yeah, what my 2 cents as well is that we all have lots of great ideas, and then it's just do we want to try some of these out, or do we want to what's the next steps moving forward? Do we want to just try and come up with a survey to guide the next steps, or kind of just try things out? I think what we have been doing is kind of a mix. Like we'll try out, okay, we'll do these warrant article summaries, see how that goes while talking about the survey and the other stuff. Because one of Russ's questions as well was, or what he'd like to see is some sort of survey as like a next step. And I kind of think that's where we probably need to go. And I just for you guys, I just uploaded to our Communications Advisory Committee page on the website. At the bottom, I put the communications analysis and our current social media policy are now on there as documents at the bottom. So if anyone watching want to check those out, they're there currently. So
Great.
Well, if we're in agreement that the survey feels necessary, that seems like the next step, if you guys agree.
I agree, and it doesn't even have to be all that extensive. I mean, it could be just 10 questions. Like, what would you like? I mean, it could be multiple choice, just so it's not completely freewheeling. Of all of these methods, what's what would be your preferred method of receiving communications? And I don't know, they could just say just one, or they could rank them. We have the website, we have Facebook, we have the app. I mean, there are, I know Daryl alluded to, depending generationally, there are different, I'm a millennial. I'm starting to move even farther distance from the current generation coming up using the Snapchat. And I mean, there's things I don't even know about anymore. And then, you're right that, there are expectations for, maybe some of, Exeter's more senior population to have the robocalls. And so it's very varied. I do think Facebook is so prevalent. I think everybody's, not everybody, but most people have had an account. It probably is a good happy medium to start there. I feel like that's the most, prevalent social media that people do use. So that's probably a good place to start. But I'm not, I don't have any experience formulating questions for surveys. I'm certainly willing to help. I'm certainly willing to take a shot at it. Would we be using something like a Survey Monkey, or I'm trying to think of the platforms we'd use? Would it be electronic or?
What we have with the town that doesn't cost us anything to do, I mean, other than my time, is a Google form. And we've used that. I've used it for, most recently I'm on the board for the New Hampshire Coalition for Community Media as a part of what I do here. And that's like stations like us across the state. And we did one that we sent out to, we tried to send it out to every single station in New Hampshire, like Access Center. And, but it's a lot of work, and sometimes you don't get many responses. So, I mean, if we can crowdsource kind of the questions between us, and then I can refine them and find out the best way. I've also done them recently for economic development. We've actually done the city of Portsmouth, all of Rockingham County, and Exeter, 3 different surveys that we've done. And we've been sending out emails as a part of that to like 15,000 people, business owners, as like getting out COVID-19 information. For business relief and whatnot. So part of that, we did a survey, and it got good response, because it was, people were really interested in that information and giving that feedback about, the struggling of their businesses and what types of resources they're using. And from that, I know a little bit now. I've learned a few things, so I can make nice graphs and charts and stuff to visualize it. So it, looks decent and makes sense. So I'd be happy to do that. I just don't know what are all the questions, because I just like that 2019 study. I have the internal communication lens on. I mean, what we do is in Exeter TV is really with the public a lot, and I have that feedback, but I don't know what the public thinks of other stuff. Pretty much all I hear is the website sucks, but I think, we do a really good job with the website and other aspects, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess I'd just be interested in taking stock of what medium do you turn to currently to get your information about the town? And in an ideal world, what medium would you turn to if it were available or if it were improved upon? I mean, I guess those are really kind of the fundamental questions. And then I don't know if we could just ask them, we know we use the website, we know we use the newsletter, we know we use the app, we know we use various Facebook accounts. Maybe we can give them an option to where they can write in their own. If those alternatives don't work, what would you suggest? I don't know if that's possible to do on the survey.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different options. There's everything from check boxes, multiple choice, short, long answer. You can also do those things where, please rate us on how well you think we're doing. And then you have like 1 to 5, and then you have website, posting of meetings, or you can list things that you want to rate, to see how well we're doing on that. I definitely go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Bob. I'm just cutting you off.
The multiple choice and the checkbox ones are really easy to turn into graphs, which is great because the multiple choice, it automatically just does it for you, and then the checkbox with some formulas and that it all goes into a spreadsheet. So we have this big, huge spreadsheet of data that doesn't really make much sense if you look at it, but then adding some formulas and stuff, it can do tallies and count up everything to show you, percentages, responses for this and that. So those can be really useful. And then you still get the long answers too. You can add those. So, to give feedback or ideas, that'll give you that qualitative and quantitative data, which both are useful. So
I have to hop off in 3 minutes. I think we should probably limit the open-ended questions on it, just in terms of sort of reviewing the results. I don't know if I feel equipped to tackle this, but I feel better at just editing questions. I don't know who among us wants to take
I don't know if you guys, for 91A kind of rules, if you guys all want to just start, you could email me like separately, just email me, not the whole committee, like questions, and I can maybe compile it in some sort of Google Doc, and then,
okay.
I'll start to try and organize it by sections. And I know, Connor, you mentioned maybe having it brief. I think there is something to that, but also like if we are going to put a lot of effort in getting this out, which, that's a whole nother thing. How do we want to get the survey out to the public and let people know about it? Then, if we're going to do a push, we may want to invest and have longer, more questions, I guess, to kind of drill down into it. And I'm learning more ways about doing the survey too, that, you answer no to this question, it just skips you to the, so I can try and design it more like that as well, if it's possible. So that it could take you 5 minutes, it could take you 20 minutes if you really want to write an essay or answer every single question.
Bob, okay. Quick question. How long does, I know it's different for each survey probably, but how long does it take usually from start to end, from creating it to having the public respond to analyzing everything? You're talking like a month, 2 months?
That really all depends on, I guess, how quickly we get it out and what's the cutoff. I mean, for example, for the one I did for the New Hampshire for Coalition for Community Media, I did that, and it's been months already. And like I got half of the amount of responses as we hoped. So I literally emailing individuals saying, can you do the survey, and getting some responses, and then I plan on putting that all together in some sort of report. I can get quick graphs and stuff, live while people are submitting to some of the questions, and then if we at our next meeting, if we finalize the questions, and then then we would want to do a test with the committee probably of you guys go through the form, make sure it works, and then we can publish it, and then I don't know, give 2 weeks, give a month for people to give answers, and then it's however short a window you want to give. Obviously the bigger, just like with the survey question length, if you give them too much time, they'll be like, I'll do the survey later because I still have time to do it. But if you only give them 2 days to do it, they might be like, I just don't have the time to get to it today, so I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah, no, my experience, the only thing I would say, my experience doing surveys, it does take time, right? And it especially takes time once you have the information to then analyze it, to really create that nice presentation. I think just the issue would be stalling things and waiting for the survey responses to come back. We're not going to do anything as far as figuring out other means of just having a process and a plan until we get these survey answers back. I think it's really important to also consider, like, okay, we don't have that many avenues of communication of reaching the public, and it's important to get their response, obviously, so that we're reaching them better. But in the same notion, I think having the committee work on, whether it's education for people in town offices that are responsible for PR, or creating a communication plan. What does that mean for committees to get the information? Once the town everybody responds saying, you know what, Facebook's the best means. Okay, great. Let's utilize Facebook. But then we already have in place a plan with, say, other town offices or town committees. This is our communication plan. This is how you get information onto the central Facebook page, just for an example, so that everything's kind of moving along together.
Guys, I have a ton of questions.
I like that.
But I'll send in questions.
So I have to jump too. I like that plan, Nina.
Yeah. And
anyway, that was just something thought.
No, I like it.
So we'll all email Bob in questions, I guess, as soon as we can. And then are we planning meetings for monthly or bi-weekly, every 2 weeks?
I'd leave that up to you guys. Obviously, if you want to, because this does take time, the more frequently we can meet, that we can figure out the survey quicker. But that's totally up to you guys.
Well, 2 weeks from now is July 7th, but that's coming right off the holiday weekend. So
yeah, I can't do the 7th. I'll be
the 14th, July 14th.
Yeah.
All right, great. And we can everyone try to send Bob questions in advance of that meeting, and he can, start putting something together. And then at 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Bye, guys.
Okay, bye, Lindsay. I can send Lindsay an email.
Do the 9 o'clock. I think that would work better for all these. Yeah,
okay,
and then I just wanted to add, if you guys want, to Nina's note, we can definitely work on that. Kind of with our knowledge, a draft idea of what that master plan for communications could look like, and then if we already start that, when we get the survey responses, we can adjust. Because maybe we got something wrong, but maybe it'll just reaffirm everything we already think, and then we're already halfway there. So
great. Nina, what's your email?
You can send it to Nina, NINAMB at live.com.
Great. I'll send just a quick email around to everybody, including you, Bob, and I can just send just a quick update of, like just some general notes from the meeting, and then just to confirm our next meeting time and date.
Yep. And if you want to send, you can CC me and Pam whenever you have like the agenda to send.
Okay.
And if you want to do it, Connor, or I can do it, I'd put appointing a chair for your committee as on your agenda. You might want to do that.
Okay.
Just so you guys know who's supposed to be doing the agendas and other stuff.
Okay.
I forgot there was something we were supposed to read at the beginning of this meeting as well, but I forgot where it's, why we're doing this meeting remotely, but I don't have it in front of me. So whoever wants to read that for next time, I'll make sure you have that available. So, because we have to state that at the beginning of the meeting, and there's a couple other things we missed out, but I think that's fine. Our first Zoom, so glad you guys got going, and
okay.
I'll leave it to one of you guys, as you guys are actual members, to move to adjourn or whatever you want to do.
Okay. I like your news desk. That's a great news desk, Rob.
Yeah, it is. It's very official looking. Yeah. Well, I motion to adjourn the meeting, and I will be sending out an email.
I second it. Thank you.
All right, great. Take care, everybody. Nice to meet you, Nina.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you all.